So I deleted the dating apps already. If you had money running on it, I didn't even last a week. But is anyone really surprised because Schizoid's trying to pursue a relationship? It doesn't exactly have a good track record and, just me being me, what you know about me. I haven't written notes for this video, so I'm just gonna wing it. Please excuse me. Also, my phone's already telling me to go to bed. It's 11 p.m, but hey, you're not my real mum, don't tell me what to do kind of thing. But yeah, so... I mean, I know I had good theories about why trying to date might be worth pursuing, and it was sort of like, well, if my schizoid's caused by childhood attachment trauma and issues with my parents, and, what if I found a healthy relationship? Would that undo some of the damage, and would I eventually recover from the schizoid condition by having a healthy relationship? And yeah, I don't know, just undoing that kind of damage. Great in theory, but in practice, I guess I was sort of thinking like maybe the fake it till you make it is the problem, that I just don't reach out. If I go on these apps, will I sort of get the idea? Will I feel things that I haven't really even bothered trying to feel, because what's the point? Yeah, great in theory, but I was actually kind of over it last night, but I thought I better talk to my psychologist first just to make sure that I'm not running away, because I don't know, maybe it's confronting or whatever excuse, but talking to my psychologist, she did agree that I was sort of approaching it from a very analytical perspective and not actually feeling whatever I'm supposed to feel, and yeah, probably not the thing for me. Yeah, the thing about theory is, like, it's just theory. And I can understand that we're a social species, but that's just not how my brain works. I can't feel things that I don't feel. But yeah, and so mostly looking at these apps, I really felt like that sort of alien anthropologist, like I'm looking at this funny human species and the things that they do and sort of trying to immerse myself in the culture but not really understanding it. Like, that's the kind of vibe I got. I tried things, like I tried matching, like I tried swiping right, or on the Hinge one, you have to like something and I'd write a comment to try and, start some kind of a conversation. But yeah, and then, accepting matches and talking to people. I talked to a few people, not many. And there are so many people who just don't know how to hold a conversation. Another thing I tried is on Bumble. On Bumble, they have the speed dating thing, where you've got like 3 minutes to talk to someone without any profile pictures, without any information except like an initial. Yeah, and that was a weird experience, because once again the guys have no strategy. Like, one of the common questions I got was, how old are you? Why would you waste your 3 minutes asking that question? Because at the very end it tells you what age the other person was anyway. So why waste 3 minutes? You only have 3 minutes to make an impression. Like, wouldn't you want to make it count? And so, I got the vibe of that people just don't know how to ask relevant things. Like, you want to assess someone's personality or compatibility. So after a while I started coming in straight away with like, hi, I'm a metal vocalist, creative type, blah blah, tell me something about yourself. And I think I scared a few people off, because there was one guy who just like disappeared after I said that. There were also impatient people who don't realize that I have a loading screen on my end, and maybe that's why I haven't immediately said hi and they left the conversation before it even loaded. Another one, there was this guy whose opening line was to ask, like, which angel am I talking to today? And me being a metal vocalist with all the, like, death growl kind of nasty sounds, I said, well, actually, you're probably talking to more of a demon. That was kind of a funny conversation. Though, I think he found it a bit funny, but then he asked, like, are you a good kisser? And I'm just like, ew, I don't like that question. So the way I responded was to say, actually, not really, probably because I'm more of a vampire. And that's when the time ran out, so I don't know what he thought of that, but he's probably like, what the fuck just happened there? I had a bit of fun leaning into the crazy with that, but yeah. So that, once again, the guys have no strategy. If you're doing speed dating, don't waste your time on things that don't matter. I guess that guy might have just been there for casual shit, but yeah, so I have had some interactions, mostly in talking to people. So there was that guy who turned a conversation about cats into a pussy joke, and I was just like, After a while, just quietly unmatched. I'm like, yeah, not feeling that kind of bullshit. That's the kind of thing that guys talk to each other about in the locker room. It's kind of not how you want to attract a chick. And it was sort of in the context of, like, he's essentially saying that he can't get any, and I'm like, do you wanna? Yeah, anyway. Not exactly the kind of vibe that you want to be talking to. Anyway, whatever. Yeah, no, other conversations mostly fizzled out. I mean, like, I don't want to be pulling teeth with someone, and I guess they sort of got a bit in it because I wasn't engaging a lot. I was polite though. If people said something, apart from a guy with a pussy joke, I did respond to people, being polite and whatever. But if they didn't come back with anything, I didn't really follow up. I mean, they're not musicians, they're not going to be in my band. Why would I follow up? And even with bands, I got a bit tired of following up because people just suck at communication. But anyway, no, there was one guy. Okay, what kind of made me realize that I'm not able to do the whole relationship dating thing, like, apart from what I already know about myself, but what really made me click that despite all the work that I've done with therapy and theorizing and, mental health progress, being able to talk like this and convince people that I'm fine when I'm not, what really tipped me off that it's probably not ever going to happen, really, is one guy. He had asked to see my YouTube, asked for my YouTube link or whatever, because I had mentioned it in my profile and he wanted to check it out. And so I sent it to him. I'm like, you were going to find out I was crazy one way or another. And he only told me that he watched my shorts, although I'm sure he would have looked at my video titles where I'm all like, ooh, Schizoid tries dating, whatever. He probably looked at that and was like, oh shit, what's this then? He wanted to see my metal vocals, I think. But anyway, he watched some of my shorts, told me about that, and was like, haha, funny. And then kind of went quiet. Like, I think I responded to whatever his last one was. And then he went quiet for a few days, came back, and it was really interesting because he was trying to say, like, look, you're sweet and we could be friends, but, not really feeling anything more than that. And the way that he wrote it, he was letting me down really gently. And that's when I realized that, like, I'm supposed to, he thinks that I'm feeling something that I'm not, because that's what I'm supposed to be doing on these apps. And, like, him doing that, like, I didn't feel anything in the face of rejection. I'm just like, yeah, that's cool, I get it. And then I was, thinking about it later, going, oh shit, he actually thinks that I was interested. And so that's when it started to click for me. The only other guy, and, like, that conversation, that was just the last message that popped up well after the conversation had died. The only guy that I was really talking to more than that was the guy in his 50s. He's the only guy who was, like, articulate and able to hold a conversation in text form, which is kind of interesting. I think because maybe he's more of a sort of artsy, literature-focused guy, or I don't know, he's an educator as well, and professional Santa, which was kind of interesting, like, not like these guys with their topless photos and their sunglasses and so on, but, as the conversation went on, he did want to meet up, and, I was trying to be positive about that, but I was also like, do I really want to meet up with some random, he seems nice enough. He's very open, like, because I did say, like, look, I don't know that we're a match, but you asked to hear my music, here's some links. That's how that conversation started. And he was very chill, like, when I was saying, like, these are all the creative things that I do, he's like, wow, like, how do you even have time to do the relationship thing? Like, how can I convince you to meet? So, and, also don't overwork yourself with all this dating stuff. Like, he was pretty open and chill in that sense. So maybe that's, I don't know, he was just better at conversation than the other dudes. And I don't know if that's a generational thing, because, like, someone that age would have had to write letters. Like, we still had to do it when I was a kid, but not really. And I didn't really have anyone to write to. So I wonder if that's part of it, because, like, online communication is a little bit different. If you were used to writing letters back in the day, maybe, I don't know. I know there's a lot of older people out there who also can't hold conversations online, so maybe I'm just getting a little bit bogged down in a detail that doesn't matter. But no, what I was picking up, I was quite honest with him because, like, he was like, wow, you're so creative and amazing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, but heads up, mental health issues, live at home with my parents, blah, blah, blah. Like, I was very upfront about that. And I think actually I was probably trying to push him away with that, but he took it as like me being really honest and open, and then he's like saying that he was feeling a connection. And then also with the Santa stuff, I did Santa photography, would have been more than 10 years ago now. And, I had seen things he showed me like his page that he uses to promote that service, and I had seen like a post about like these parents who don't realize that the Santa thing is supposed to be for the kids. They just want to get a good photo, even if the kids aren't into it. And, what I used to do is tell the kid, hey, if you do one nice photo for your parents, I promise we can do a silly photo with Santa. And the kids would, they'd behave for the first one, but then when the silly photo, they could do whatever they wanted. That's when they were happier, and most parents would buy the happier silly photo because they realize the kids are meant to have fun, not sit there all nice and polite and whatever. And he had very much the same philosophy. And when I mentioned that, then he's like, oh my gosh, really have this same wavelength kind of thing. And yeah, I was sort of like starting to realize, oh shit, he's probably feeling something that I'm not. And after I talked to my psychologist, is when I sent him a message going, hey, look, I'm deleting all my dating apps, talk to my psychologist. I'm actually probably not actually as far along in my mental health journey as I thought, and shouldn't be doing this stuff, deleting all my apps, blah, blah, blah. And his reaction to me letting him down that way confirmed for me that he was feeling things that I just wasn't. He really thought that because I was so open and honest that we had some kind of connection. It's a bit like how people on YouTube get all parasocial with me, or just think that because I'm expressing stuff to this camera and uploading it on the internet, they think that I'm like super open and brave and blah, 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 or that we have some kind of connection, viewer and audience kind of thing, when really that's not how I experience it. People are sometimes like, you're schizoid, how can you be a YouTuber? And I think it's just because I have that level of detachment. Whatever people think that I'm doing on camera, like whatever they relationship thing or social thing, I'm not actually experiencing whatever those people think I'm experiencing. So yeah, his response, like, he really did feel a connection, and like not to the level of knowing that I'm the one or anything, but in contention. And I sort of was like, shit, yeah, because I was sort of just happily chatting along the way that I would chat with anyone, really. I'm open everywhere, like I spill all my secrets on, well, not all my secrets on YouTube, but enough that people think I spill all my secrets on YouTube. Yeah, and I was just thinking about that more, especially his reaction once I said, hey, not gonna meet up, all that kind of thing. Yeah, it's interesting to sort of see that people have these emotions. I think the main thing that I've learned since my schizoid diagnosis is just how much regular people feel that I just don't have experience of. Like, I'm not even aware of some of the, like the things that people feel. It's just theoretical to me. And I think in the past, like, I was always like, why are people so irrational and all this kind of thing? I realize it's because they experience emotions that I don't. Like the emotions that I do experience, they tend to be negative, like depression, and that can really screw with how I think. So I understand how emotions can be powerful and change that kind of stuff. But the specific emotions that most people feel, I just don't have. And it makes it hard for me to understand when people get bogged down in that, and certain things that people think are really important that I just don't. Yeah, that's been my main insight from being diagnosed schizoid. It really does feel like being that alien anthropologist sometimes, like, studying the local population. Anyway, so interesting experiment. Oh, another issue is in doing this, so alongside having the Bumble and the Hinge and trying to interact with them, I've also been talking to some online friends, like, about, well, I mean, I've met some of them IRL, but, and one of them is my real life friend, like the one that I see a lot. And then online people. So I've talked to them a bit about, sending screenshots occasionally and like, haha, this guy just turned up and, here's whatever his particular flaw is. And there's some fun shit like that. But in talking to them though, some of the conversations that I've had with Facebook friends have gotten into areas that reminded me of what my relationships used to be like. And it made me realize that dissociation really is something that I've got to be careful about, because I think the only way that I really did my relationships in the past, I had 3 relationships. I did go on dates when I was doing like the RSVP thing, but most of them, I think there were only 2 that had a second date, and it was really awkward the second time, and the rest were just like awkward from the first time. So there were only like 3 actual relationships that I had, and I think the only way that I really managed those was to dissociate. And so we started to get into a bit of that in psychology today, and I guess, we'll probably explore it next time, and so that's going to be difficult because it's really hard for me to talk about it, especially in that psychology context. I'm a bit more open on YouTube because I've talked about it on YouTube. Some of you have seen some of that shit from like 15 years ago, and the detachment, like there's not actually someone in the room with me right now, it's just me and the camera, and it's easier to talk in that sense. Everyone's gone to bed, otherwise I wouldn't be able to talk. Okay. So with the dissociation type stuff, when I started dating my ex, who was my first boyfriend, I call them different things. He's the ex, because I have the most negative feelings about him, because he was kind of a prick. Anyway, when I was with him, I remember the day that my brain kind of like split off in the dissociation kind of way. This is not the destroyer thing, destroyer, marry her. This is sort of like a third thing that doesn't exist anymore as far as I'm aware. But because trying to date my ex was so out of character, I remember exactly the moment I was crossing the road, and that's when my brain decided to just split off a different part of me and be like, that's going to handle the relationships. And I almost fell over. It was a really weird kind of thing. Like all these kids who do their I've got DID, meet my alters kind of shit. The way they talk about discovering alters and stuff is completely unrelatable to me. This was just like my brain just suddenly went, nope, in the middle of trying to cross the road. It was just a bad place for that to happen. I managed to get across. But then from there, like, dealing with the relationship stuff, I just wasn't me. That was the way that I dealt with it. Most of the time, I just wasn't me. And, like, I don't know how else to explain it, because obviously I was me, but I wasn't. And I think that's the only way I could do a relationship. And so when I've been talking to people thinking, well, there's also some other issues with relationships, but I won't get into that now because that does involve some other dissociation type stuff and some other things that I'm really not ready to talk about online. If I win the $40 million Powerball on Thursday and can buy myself a house and be all like, yay, I am free from society's bullshit, then maybe I'll spill the beans on some of the like, iffier stuff, but, well, I'm stuck in this. No, I'm not gonna. Anyway, sorry to tease. I just gotta, like, go through the talking to myself thing to be able to get to the next stage. Okay. Reminded of stuff about my past relationships, but also in interacting with the dating apps and, like, trying to assess people. Like, if I don't find anyone attractive, how do I judge them if they don't put enough in their profile? And then what am I judging them on in their profile? Nothing that I'm supposed to be judging. Anyway, no, just interacting with the apps. It's so out of character for me to even try to do this stuff and like trying to talk to strangers who I know are assessing, mating value or companionship or whatever. It's so out of character that I was starting to get those feelings of dissociation. Not exactly that third part of me that dealt with the relationships, but just dissociating in general, like depersonalization, definitely. And then I guess because of that, that's triggering some of the more destroyery type stuff. And I just, Yeah, because it's out of character. I think that's what set some of it off. And I realized if I keep trying this stuff, it's probably going to be very destabilizing. Like I mentioned, I wanted to talk to my psychologist to make sure I'm not just running away. Like doing that, like, what do they say about schizoids is that when someone gets too close, you know, you sort of have a tendency to shut them out, and like relationships with schizoids can be very on and off in some way, or I don't know, that like, you know, different sources say stuff. I don't know how much is actually in research and how much might just be anecdotal. But yeah, like even if a schizoid tries at some point, you know, they need their own space again and blah blah blah. Where was I going with that? Destabilizing. Oh shit, I forgot where I was going. This is what happens when I don't write my points down. Oh, I wanted to check that I wasn't doing one of those schizoid things. Yeah. Okay. That's why I brought that up. So, yeah, I wanted to check with that first, and then talking about dissociation. Where was I going? Shit, I really lost my train of thought. Oh, well, you know, with my theories about like, ooh, if I found a healthy relationship, would it undo the childhood attachment trauma issues, glass child trauma, blah blah blah, issues with my parents? One thing I thought is like, I could just push myself to do the relationship thing, but, you know, kind of coercing myself with that theory is probably not a healthy way to do it. Like, the whole point is to find a healthy relationship, but if I have to coerce myself just to even get one started, like, that is not right. And instead, what might happen is I just dissociate. Maybe that third version of me comes back, and I just end up living that kind of a lie and getting into situations that I really don't want to be in. And also, like, even when I had that dissociation, all of the guys that I was in relationships with, they all at some point realized that I wasn't really that into them. I think I managed to be convincing enough that they just didn't do anything. And also, guys are actually quite sensitive. Like, they won't let on, but you know, males tend not to have the same social connections that females have, and the nature of those connections is different, and so they can become very attached to their partners because that's the closest person in their life. They can't talk about shit to their girlfriends because they only have the one girlfriend. Their dude friends don't talk about the same kinds of things that they can talk to with their girlfriends, right? And yeah, I think because of that, you know, guys being very attached, none of them dumped me, and I really wanted them to dump me because then I wouldn't have to do it myself, because it's just like such a process. You have to deal with all their emotions and whatever. I know it's like kind of terrible to say that from a mainstream perspective, but that's just how it was. I kind of wanted them to dump me so I wouldn't have to do it myself. But yeah, no, somehow, I guess, dissociating, I managed to convince them, like, yeah, no, it's, I don't know, I probably came up with some kind of excuse, but they all did notice that I wasn't actually interested in their shit. I'm interested in my own shit. I don't mind if other people are interested in my own shit. And if they help me with my shit, that's great. But I can't really reciprocate that kind of thing in a real genuine way. I was not really interested in their hobbies, not really interested in, you know, meeting their families, not really interested in whatever they were doing. I was just interested in me and whatever I wanted from stuff. Like, you know, one of the guys carried my band gear. I think my psychologist, I don't remember the exact word she said, but like, you know, the way that I deal with people is maybe utilitarian. Like, I can happily hang out with someone if we're working on something like a band, or if we're going to an exhibition, maybe. Like, there needs to be some kind of purpose. I can't just hang out. Yeah, and I guess that kind of ties into it. Like, I can't just have a relationship with someone. There has to be something else that I need from it. I don't know, like someone to carry my shit. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know, I'm kind of just rambling, and you get the idea though. Like, all the schizoid stuff, as much as I can theorize reasons to try dating and blah blah, we're a social species, whatever, it doesn't change the core of me and what I'm actually feeling. I can't force myself to feel things that I don't. It's a bit like with atheism. I didn't cope with atheism, having grown up Catholic, believing I had some kind of purpose, and then realizing actually if there's no God, then I don't have purpose, then what am I doing here? What's the point of living? I did try and find different religions. I went into different spiritualities. I tried to find purpose, and I tried to find my place in the world and all that, and just couldn't find it. I couldn't make myself believe things that I don't believe in. Like, occult stuff seems kind of cool. I'm kind of goth. Don't believe it. Can't make myself believe it. Vampire stuff, that's, the real vampire thing, which also related to some of the dissociation stuff, but at the time I was trying to look for explanations, and that seemed like it could be a cool thing, but ultimately couldn't believe in it. And yeah, in a similar way with the relationship type stuff, I get it. Humans are not supposed to be the way that we are as schizoids, is like, just not giving a shit. Theoretically, yeah, all makes sense, but I can't feel whatever I'm supposed to be feeling. It's just not part of my experience. So, interesting experiment. I think the main thing that I really got out of it was just like the entertainment value of seeing how bad guys are at their dating profiles and shit like that. That was kind of a distraction. Probably should have been focusing on my music instead of wasting my time on those things, but hey, it when I wasn't feeling motivated, just scroll through the app. Bit of a time waster. And the other thing I got out of the experience was just to confirm that this isn't for me. I'm just gonna have to win the $40 million Powerball on Thursday. Like, that's... I don't know. I don't know what else I can do. Like, I can't do the, internet fame thing either, because I can't stick to one thing. I know that some of these schizoid videos are popular, but I also can't help myself but film ants eating tomatoes. I just can't help myself. I don't give a shit what people think. I want to post the things that I want to post. I'm not gonna, pander in any kind of way. If I happen to post things that people like, cool. But if not, I don't give a shit. Yeah, and it's kind of been interesting as well, talking to some people on Facebook, telling them, hey, yeah, I went and deleted the apps. And I get the sense that some of them who don't realize how deep the schizoid stuff is, I think they're expecting me to be upset in some way that it didn't work out, and I'm really not. If anything, I'm kind of relieved to just get rid of it all. Yeah, so, interesting experiment. I don't know if maybe I gave some of you false hope that things might be able to change, but no, that just doesn't seem to be a thing. And so, yeah, next step, I'm not going to see my psychologist for another 3 weeks. She's away next week, which is why I had the session today, even though I just had one last week. And then I think, yeah, in terms of talking about dissociation, some of the harder stuff, I just can't say it in that session yet. But with the third version of me, we used to call it M3 on this channel. With that M3 version, I'm just going to call it the third part of me. It doesn't exist anymore. It sort of petered out. And, as other things went on in my brain and so on, I just, it sort of just dissipated, and it's impossible for me to hold a relationship once I didn't have that anymore. So it's not really a thing that I currently experience, and I think that's probably the jumping point to talk about dissociation things with my psychologist. So I've got to try and think about that some more, and yeah, try and open up to her some more about that. Other things with her, we also talked a bit about the autism thing, because my psychiatrist, still wants to think I had that. And they did have a phone call, and my psychologist was saying she did push back because, she pointed out to my psychiatrist that, schizoid and autism can look very similar, and that she didn't think that I had autism. And so, yeah, we did talk a lot about, I said, I don't think I want to go back to see him. And so we were like, what are the pros and cons? What am I getting out of it, if anything? Why did I go see him in the first place? And because last week when I saw him, we did talk briefly about, should I only be seeing one person? Because it's hard for me to remember what I've told. Usually I'd see the psychologist, then have a half-hour break, and then see the psychiatrist and afterwards, and by then I can't even remember what. I've just spent an hour talking to the psychologist, and then I have to talk to the psychiatrist, and yeah, so he already flagged that he was okay with me sort of, withdrawing from treatment with him. Yeah, so I'm probably not going to go back to see my psychiatrist. I don't see the point. You know, I'm not on medication. We already looked at the blood test. Nothing showed to explain why I get bad side effects. If I decide to do TMS down the line, I mean, I've got to get myself out of the house more to even make that a possibility. But if I decide I want to do it, I can just go straight to a TMS company. That's the transcranial magnetic stimulation thing. I can just go straight to a company and they'll assess me, and that's fine. I don't need him for that. So yeah, I'll probably just see my psychologist instead. And like the psychiatrist had said, apparently he wrote a letter saying that he hasn't observed any dissociation type stuff, but he didn't ask me about it either. I didn't tell him anything because I really got vibes that he wouldn't believe me about some of my experiences. So that's why I didn't raise it with him. And yeah, of course he didn't observe anything because I was very guarded. I'm not going to show any of that kind of stuff. And it's not like something that I can't control in some way. I was always, even when I was in full dissociation, I could put the brakes on if I didn't like something that was happening. But yeah, we didn't really talk about it, and he was sort of dismissing that, and I can see that I don't think I would ever be able to talk to him about it, whereas with my psychologist, I guess because she's more trauma informed and a bit more open, and yeah, it just doesn't make me feel like I'm an idiot for saying something or whatever. So we'll talk about that with her. Anyway, I'm rambling. That doesn't really have anything to do with the dating, except that it raised some of those issues for me. Stuff and things. I don't know if there's anything else I have to say about the dating. If I do, maybe I'll post it in the community tab or on Patreon, which I've still been neglecting. If there's some question I haven't addressed, feel free to leave it in the comments, because, yeah, unscripted shit, I don't know what I might have missed. But yeah, I think that's probably the end of it, because I've deleted the apps now. Deleted my accounts and uninstalled the apps, so that's all done with. Interesting experience, just not really for me. And I don't have any solutions for you if you are hoping to cure schizoid or find a way to date as a schizoid. I cannot tell you anything about how to do that, and my feeling is to just not, but I know there are schizoids who do somehow manage relationships, maybe with similar types of people. Like, I've heard schizoids with schizoids sometimes works, but yeah, I'm not the person to ask about that stuff. I have no idea how they how they do it. I'd be quite happy on my own. That's one of the things my psychologist said, is like, you know, would you be happy to just never have this stuff? And I'm like, yep. Just don't give a shit. It's actually a relief to just have the time to do my own thing. So that's it, I think. Do I have anything else to say? No. Got the right shirt on today. Do I look like a people person? Anyway. Bye!